Welcome to Running on Disney. It's Alexis. I hope you all had a great week. You all are in for such a treat this week. I've been waiting such a long time to do this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. This week, it's all going to be about planning your Disney trip. I have been planning mine with my family, my husband, my parents for probably about since the start of this year, just getting everything organized. And I'm going to take y'all through the steps that I went through to plan it, as well as some helpful tips, some events that you might want to take into consideration when you're planning your trip, as well as some discounts and some military benefits. So let's go! It's Disney Week here on Running with Disney. And I thought I'd start this with probably the most important piece of your Disney trip, besides actually getting out there and going, and that's planning. And I thought we would talk about how I planned this upcoming trip to Disney for my family, and what sorts of advice and information I thought would be beneficial for you guys. So let's get started. The first thing you're really going to want to know, or you're going to want to figure out with your Disney trip, is deciding when you want to go. Certain times of the year offer certain features. Throughout the year, there's different festivals. There's the Festival of Art, the Flower and Garden Festival, the Food and Wine Festival, and those are all really, really big times to go. There's also the holiday parties. We have Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party that runs from August to, I think, the first weekend in November. And then there's Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party that runs from, I think it's the middle of November to the end of December. I'm going to fact check that and I'll put it down below if I'm wrong. But yeah, so those types of years are going to offer certain things that other times of the year don't. You're going to see different characters. You're going to see different parade floats. You're going to have different snacks even that are available during those times of year. So that could be a big deciding factor when your family wants to go. I know for my family, that's my dad's favorite time of the year to go to Disney. It's not too hot down in Orlando. It's not too crowded when we go. I mean, there's no optimal time to go into Disney World, especially since everybody's figured out when those down seasons are. But the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is when we love to go. My family just loves Christmas. So there's a lot that is offered at that time of the year that suits us and our family. But when you go is entirely up to you and yours. There's also room discounts depending on the time of year that you go. There's summer nights that you get, I think it's up to 5 nights at $130 some dollars. I'm not entirely sure. I'll include a link down below in the show notes as to what their current discounts are, but that's also the webpage where they will post up and coming room discounts. So be sure to check that out because that can be a big deciding factor as to when you go as well. Question number 2 that you need to ask yourself when you're deciding about your Disney trip is how many people are coming with you? How many people that are coming with you will depend on what resorts that you'll stay at, and more importantly, the room type that you will need to accommodate. I know that for us, that was a big deciding factor as to what resort we were going to stay at in December, with it being my husband and myself, as well as my parents. We decided that a suite would be better suited for us. And since we're not Disney Vacation Club members, we had to look at the normal everyday resorts that offered that room type. And it also didn't break the bank. So that was why we decided for us that the resort that we wanted to stay at was the Art of Animation. It's one of the value resorts, but it's up there with the moderate. There's certain criteria that the moderate resorts have to meet as opposed to the value, and it meets all of those, but the price specifically for the Art of Animation is within the value range. So that was a key determining factor for us. It also offered us 3 different areas where we could sleep. My parents will be getting the private room with a bed in it, and then my husband and I will be taking the pull-out couch in the living room. So it was better suited for the type of family that we were bringing this time. But that's something to consider, is how many people you're going to bring and how big of accommodations you want. Question number 3 that you want to ask yourself when planning your Disney vacation. Where do you want to stay close to? The resorts are spread out across the entire property for Walt Disney World. There are locations that are close to each of the specific parks. For instance, Disney's Contemporary Resort, the Polynesian Village, the Grand Floridian, Fort Wilderness Lodge. Those are all going to be close to the Magic Kingdom. Now, if you can work within your price range, if you have younger children, that was where I would recommend. My husband and I are looking to becoming DVC members, and that's something that we've been taking into consideration as we look into this, is that we are going to be having children one day, and we're not going to want to lug our kids and their strollers and diaper bags and all that on a 20-minute bus ride. Then there's also the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and that's obviously in the Animal Kingdom area. If you get lucky enough to get into that resort, I would highly recommend a Savannah room, because that is what is going to make the price worth the stay, is when you get to see those giraffe, the zebra, the Savannah animals right outside your window. That's, to me, what would make the price worth it. And then in the Epcot Resort area, you have Disney's Beach Club, the Yacht Club, and the Boardwalk Inn. And those are all the deluxe resorts. Let's see if I can get that out. And those are going to be your top tier price range. Those are going to offer you probably the best amenities. They might have a bit nicer rooms. But in my opinion, and after going on a lot of room tours, like watching YouTubers and all that, Disney doesn't really not deliver on any of their price tiering rooms. All of those resorts are beautifully crafted. The Imagineers do a fantastic job planning this all out. And then you also have the moderate resorts. That's going to be your Port Orleans French Quarter, your Port Orleans Riverside, the Caribbean Beach Resort, the Coronado Springs Resort, and the cabins at Fort Wilderness. And those are going to be kind of your middle range price point. And they offer different things. Obviously, the Caribbean is inspired by the island, whether that be the architecture, the food, the colors. And then obviously the Port Orleans French Quarter and French Riverside are inspired by New Orleans and the architecture and the ambiance of the surrounding area. And then you have your value resorts, which are going to be your all-star resorts, the all-star music, the all-star sports, the all-star movies, art of animation, and Pop Century. Those are all going to be in that lowest price bracket. I haven't personally stayed at any of those yet. We're going to be staying at the Art of Animation in December, and I plan on doing a room tour and a review and just a bunch of information about that resort after we come back. So check back in December to see how that goes. So really, where you want to stay, it depends a lot upon what parks you want to be close to and how much you want to spend. The next biggest thing after you have your reservations made for your hotel resort is figuring out the dining plan. Disney offers 3 dining plans. They offer the quick service, they offer the Disney dining plan, and they offer the deluxe dining. Those 3 tiers of dining plan just depends on how much food you want to eat, how much you know your family is going to eat. Another factor is how much you want to spend on it. The quick service, pretty straightforward. It gives you, I think, 1 quick service meal. Maybe a snack. I'm not entirely sure. I have personally never done the quick service meal. My family likes to eat. And we always get our bang for our buck, which is why we choose the second option, which is the Disney dining plan. It has 1 table service meal a day, 1 quick service meal a day, and a snack. We found that for the amount of time that we go down, that is perfect for us. We don't end up having any credits left over. We are able to eat a little bit more elaborately because we don't have to worry about paying that out of pocket, which is another reason why I would suggest the dining plan. If you want to leave that hassle of making sure you stay within a budget, because you've already spent the money, you've already put it towards your trip, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about gratuities, which are no longer included in the dining plan. something else to keep in mind. And then the deluxe dining has 3 meals a day. They can be quick service, they can be table service. But I think it's 3 meals and a snack, or 3 meals and 2 snacks. I'll include a link to the descriptions of the different dining plans down below in the show notes, so you guys can go and check that out. But speaking of dining, know when your reservations can be made. That is the biggest, I won't say the biggest and most important step, but you definitely want to make sure that you meet your window, because if not, there will be nothing available. You might get to your mark and there'll be nothing available anyway, but knowing what your deadlines are is so vitally important, especially if you have favorite restaurants that you want to eat at, those must-do rides that maybe not everybody in your party wants to, and I'll get to that in a second. But dining, your dining reservations can be made 180 days before you check in, whether you're staying on property or you're staying off property. And what I mean by that is if you're staying in a Disney resort hotel or you're staying outside at like a Holiday Inn, both of those dining reservations for both of those types of vacations can be made 180 days in advance. The only difference is if you stay on property, you can make your reservations for your entire stay starting at the 180-day mark. If you stay off property, you can start booking your reservations at 180 days, but you can only book 1 day at a time. So that's also something to keep in mind as you're planning your stay. If you're kind of going back and forth on whether to stay on property or off property. If you have those must-do dining reservations, you want to have those ironed down in advance. That's not to say that if you're staying on property, you shouldn't. You should. My family made our plans about a month in advance, so that way at midnight, at the 180-day mark, I was able to get our reservations in. And for the most part, we got to eat. We're going to get to eat at all the places that we want. Really, the only 2 big ones were the Coral Reef in Epcot, over by the Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Be Our Guest. I did not get the Be Our Guest reservation. There wasn't a lot offered, and it was at a weird time for when my family normally likes to eat, which, again, when you're on vacation, you kind of have to be lenient because you can only get reservations when you can get reservations. But this isn't going to be my last Disney trip. It's not going to be my only chance to get to eat in the Beast Castle. It wasn't going to hurt me if I had to give that up. But I also was able to replace it with a character meal, which is something you might want to consider too, especially if you have those littles. It's a very easy way to get character autographs. We are doing our character meal at the Crystal Palace, which is where Winnie the Pooh and Friends likes to hang out. And my husband can vouch for this. I am crazy when it comes to Winnie the Pooh. I am a 23-year-old mess when it comes to Winnie the Pooh. So that's something to keep in mind as you're making your reservations. Knowing what's available, and Disney has a comprehensive list of every place where you can eat on property on their website. And if you need a good resource about what's the best restaurants to eat at in each park, I suggest going over to Disney Food Blog. I'll link their YouTube in the show notes below. They have a video for every restaurant, I feel. Every restaurant is covered by them. And if it's not covered by a video, they have a website where they have a guidebook that you can order, a digital copy. And I will put that link in the show notes below as well, because I have found that super helpful. So moving on from dining reservations, at 60 days if you're staying on property, and at 30 days if you're staying off property, you can make your Fast Pass Plus reservations. Now, that window opens up at 7 a.m. at 60 days prior to your arrival date. So at 7 a.m., for us it's on October 5th, we will be able to wake up and make those reservations for those must-do attractions. If you're not staying on property, it's at 30 days. And I believe it's the same thing, 7 a.m., that is when your window becomes available. A piece of advice, take it with a grain of salt for a person who, the last time I was at Disney, Fast Passes were still just an up-and-coming thing. Nobody really knew how to work them. Nobody really knew what to do. At least in my family, we were just like, oh, we can just wait. Pick the rides that you're going to most want to do and get Fast Passes for those. Or what we're doing is, because there's 4 of us and we don't all like to do the same thing, we decided that if all 4 of us are not going to do a ride, that those rides that we all weren't going to do together would be the rides that we try to get fast passes for. That way we don't have 1 person or 2 people waiting outside for hours on end, waiting for whoever's riding to get through the line and get through the ride and come out. I remember the last time I went, my cousin and I waited in line for 2 hours to do Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith, an amazing ride, while my parents sat on a bench outside. So that's just something that my family and I are taking into consideration. However, those really hot fast passes like Avatar Flight of Passage, I think there's going to be a Star Wars one that opens up that will have a fast pass. I'm not entirely sure on that. Those are going to be ones that I think we will get all 4 regardless. Soarin', because again, waiting in that long line with no seating is horrible, especially at the end of the day when your feet hurt and you just ache all over in places that you didn't know that you could ache all over until you walked around Disney World for a day. So that's how my family is choosing to do our fast pass reservations. I do know that you are only able to make 3 a day, but after you use those 3, like while you're in the park, you can look and see if a last minute fast pass has popped up for a very hot ride. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So you just have to get lucky. I highly recommend downloading the My Disney Experience app. It's available on the App Store. It's available on the Google Store. Getting that, linking that to your Disney reservation account will help you tremendously. I was able to make my dining reservations through it. I'll be able to make my fast pass reservations through it. I believe you can add your memory maker in it. There's just a bunch of helpful information on that app that will make it easier for you in the long run. So some extra bonuses that will make your trip special, or at least what we are doing to make our trip special. My dad is having his birthday while we're there, so we're going to have like a little pin, like the little button, and we're going to make a big deal of that. I'm not sure how. Probably as we get closer to our trip, I'm going to have those details figured out, and I will keep you all posted on that. I'm going to be doing some Disney trip updates between now and the time we leave in December, so check for that then. Also, it's my husband's first trip to Disney World, so we're going to get a little commemorative button for him as well. I'm not sure if he's going to like that. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll show you in the vlog of our trip once we have that compiled together. And then also my husband and I are looking into joining Disney Vacation Club. That's something else that you can do while you're down there. You can meet up with one of their representatives and do a tour and possibly become part of the Disney Vacation Club timeshare. If you want more information on that, I highly recommend looking up Jen LaForge on YouTube. I'll put a link to her page down below. She has had so many good videos that have given me so much information and so much to think about when deciding about purchasing a piece of the magic. So definitely go and check her out. She'll also have a lot of recommendations of other YouTubers to look at as far as finding the best resort home and all of that. So definitely go check her out. Like I said, I'll put a link to her page in the show notes below. And this wouldn't be my channel if we didn't sit here and talk about the military at some point. So I'm going to tell you different ways that military personnel and their families can save on their trip to Disney. Now, if you buy your tickets through your information ticket and travel office on your local base, they do offer half price 4 and 5 day Park Hopper and Park Hopper Plus tickets. I looked it up and to see just how much it would cost ordering those tickets from Disney alone for the days that we were going. And we would be spending as much on the tickets as we are on our room reservation and our dining plan for 4 people. The price of the 4-day Park Hopper, just the basic Park Hopper ticket option, was $500 some per person. whereas we spend $239 through our local ITT office. So I would highly recommend, if you live close to a base, which if you're active duty, you should, I would very, very, very much so recommend going into that office and seeing what their prices are. I believe that price was set in stone from January 1st until December 14th. And those prices do change, I believe, every year, just like a Disney admission ticket does. But you're still going to get a better deal on tickets going through your ITT office than directly through Disney. There's also a Shades of Green resort. It is a military-only resort that is on the Disney property. However, it is not owned by Disney. So if you do choose to stay there, you lose some of those amenities and those features that come with staying on a Disney property. You do not have transportation to and from the parks. You don't have the bus system that runs. You don't have the boat rides. You don't have the new gondola system, the new skyline. So those things do get forfeited. However, a perk is that the room rates are based on the military member's rank. So I'm not entirely sure what they are. I'll include a link to their website down below and you can go and check them out. But that is an option. It's probably going to break even as far as the price for the resort for the Shades of Green and the price of the resort for Disney. But that is an option. You're going to have a certain type of experience staying there because it is only military personnel and their families. Now, back on the Disney side of it, certain times of the year, Disney offers military members discounted rates on their rooms and dining plans. I'm not entirely sure when those are offered. We booked through the leisure travel office at our home base, and she was not even sure until she called them and asked if they had the military room rate and dining plan. So it's really hit or miss. I couldn't give you a certain time. I'm sure Disney could if you called them up directly, but that's something to consider too if you're military personnel. Also, and I was not aware of this again until I went and talked to our leisure travel office, that military members with an ID get a discounted rate on the memory maker if you purchase it in the park once you get there. Now, I think the normal rate for that is between $169 and $196 to buy it online in advance, or even to buy it for the same day. Whereas if you get it in the park with your military ID, it is $96. So that's something to consider. Now, the memory maker is a picture project thing that when a cast member takes your picture, they'll kind of Photoshop in a piece of Disney magic. That might be a princess, it might be a different character, it might be like a pile of pumpkins with Mickey's cut out on it if you're going for Halloween. You can look up online what a Disney memory maker looks like, and there'll be a bunch of different examples. I would recommend getting it, especially if it's your kid's first trip to Disney. You'll be able to catch that wonder. Or in my case, my 22-year-old husband's first trip to Disney. Again, just some things that my family is specifically doing, especially when it came to the resort. We were thinking space. How are we going to get away with not sleeping almost right on top of each other? Because a lot of the standard hotel rooms do just have those two beds that have about 3 feet of space in between them. And that was not something that neither myself and my husband nor my mother and father wanted to do. So that is all I have for you this week. I hope I didn't give you too much information. Comment below what some of your tips are for planning your Disney trip. Where do you like to eat? Where do you like to stay? What are some of your must-do rides? Do you use a travel agent? Do you do it by yourself? Sound off in the comments below. I really want to know anything and everything because this isn't going to be my first and last Disney trip. I plan on doing this every year, almost every year for the rest of my life. So anything and everything that can make my life a little easier, sound off. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, please sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new here, please go ahead and click the subscribe button and the little bell notification to let you know when I upload new content. I I'm kind of bad at it. I try to do it once a week, but that would help me out a lot. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a magical week. Mwah.